Iron Man 3 hit theaters in 2013 as the first film of Phase 2. It had a lot to live up to. Not only was The Avengers a massive success the year before, but this was also the first solo movie for Tony after the events of the battle in New York. The stakes? Higher than ever. This movie had to prove that Iron Man could stand strong on his own after teaming up with the Avengers. It also had to explore the fallout and show how he was coping with nearly dying in space. The pressure was on, and Marvel took some big swings with this one. Unlike Iron Man and Iron Man 2, this wasn't just another story about Tony building better tech or facing a rival businessman. This was about him, the man. His fears, his weaknesses, and his struggle to find himself outside of the suit. It was a bold new direction, but did it pay off? Let's find out. Let's start with what Iron Man 3 got right, because despite its controversies, there's a lot to appreciate about this movie. One of the best things is how it pushes the character forward. After the Battle of New York, he's dealing with PTSD, insomnia, and anxiety attacks, something we'd never really seen in a superhero movie before. Instead of brushing off his trauma, the film forces him to confront it. He's stripped of his usual resources and has to rely on his intelligence, not just his suits, to survive. This shift makes for some of the most human moments in the entire MCU. Also, his interactions with Harley, the kid who helps him in Tennessee, are a great example. It's not just comic relief. It's him learning to adapt and rely on himself rather than his technology. And to speak on the action, this movie delivers. The attack on his Malibu mansion is one of the most visually stunning set pieces in the MCU. Watching his home get obliterated while he struggles to escape is intense. The Air Force One rescue? One of the coolest uses of the Iron Man suit, with Tony saving multiple people in mid-air in a high-stakes sequence. And the final battle, featuring the Iron Legion, gives us a massive showdown with a ton of unique suit designs and fight choreography. Even though he spends a lot of time out of the suit, the action never feels lacking. If anything, it's more creative than in the previous movies. At its core, Iron Man 3 asks an important question. Is Tony Stark still Iron Man without the suit? The film challenges him by taking away his armor for most of the story, forcing him to rely on his mind and skills. By the end, he realizes that being a hero isn't about the tech. It's about who he is. This ties perfectly into his arc in the MCU. When he finally destroys his suits at the end, it feels like he's choosing to live for himself and not just as Iron Man. Let's start with the most controversial moment, the Mandarin twist. The trailers hyped him up as a terrifying, calculated villain. Ben Kingsley's performance in the first half was chilling, and then he turned out to be Trevor Slattery, a washed-up actor hired as a front for the real villain. This reveal completely subverted expectations, but not necessarily in a good way. Longtime fans were expecting one of Tony's greatest foes to finally take the spotlight, only for the movie to turn him into a joke. Some people appreciated the twist for its unpredictability, but many saw it as a bait-and-switch that robbed the film of a truly great villain. Which brings us to the real villain, Aldrich Killian. His motivation? Revenge on Stark for brushing him off years ago. Sure, his extremist powers made for some cool visuals, but as a villain, he lacked the depth or charisma to be truly memorable. Killian was essentially another evil businessman with a grudge, which we'd already seen in Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. And his whole "I am the Mandarin" line at the end? It felt forced, like the movie was trying to make up for the Trevor twist but didn't quite stick the landing. Another divisive aspect? The heavy use of remote-controlled suits. While it led to some fun action, like him hopping from suit to suit during the final battle, it also meant we didn't see as much of Tony himself in the fights. One of the best parts of the movies earlier on was watching him inside the suit, struggling, innovating, and adapting in real time. Here, it sometimes felt like they were doing all the work for him. And when he can just summon a suit from miles away, it takes away some of the tension we felt in previous battles. And then there's the tone. Iron Man 3 tackled some heavy themes, PTSD, anxiety, and identity, but at times, the humor undercut the drama. His panic attacks were a great way to show his vulnerability, but they were sometimes played off too quickly with jokes, making it harder for those moments to fully land. And let's not forget Pepper Potts. The movie gives her extremist powers, which could have led to a fascinating arc, but instead, it's barely explored and quickly reversed at the end. A missed opportunity for sure. So, when we look at Iron Man 3 as a whole, where does it land? Well, it's a movie that took risks, some that paid off brilliantly and others that left fans divided. On one hand, it's one of the most character-driven stories in the MCU, diving deep into Tony's psyche and pushing him to grow beyond the suit. It delivered thrilling action, sharp dialogue, and an emotional arc that set up Stark's eventual journey to Avengers Endgame. On the other hand, it made some creative choices that didn't sit well with everyone. The Mandarin twist, the underwhelming villain in Killian, and the heavy reliance on remote-controlled suits left many feeling like the film missed the mark. But love it or hate it, Iron Man 3 played a crucial role in Tony Stark's evolution. By the end of the film, he realizes that Iron Man isn't just about the suits, it's about him. And that lesson shapes everything he does from that point forward. Ultimately, Iron Man 3 is a mixed bag, but it's an important chapter in Tony Stark's story. It showed us that even the most invincible hero can be vulnerable, and that's what makes him human. That's it for today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.